The morning sun cast long, golden rays across the farm as I prepared to list the pond lodge for sale. It had been a sanctuary for years, a place of strategic planning, familial retreat, and careful stewardship. But the decision to sell was both practical and deliberate. Little did I know, this action would provoke yet another intrusion from HOA Karen, whose vigilance or perhaps obsession with my property seemed to have no bounds. Within hours of the listing going live, Karen dialed emergency services, claiming that some aspect of the transaction or the property itself warranted intervention. Her call was frantic, insistent, and filled with the same misplaced sense of authority that had marked countless previous encounters. Yet this time, her actions collided with circumstances she could not have anticipated. The buyer, already familiar with the farm's layout and systems, was an informed party who understood the property's sovereignty and legal protections. I met the responders with calm authority, fully prepared to demonstrate the legitimacy of the sale and the lawfulness of every step in the transaction. Documentation was complete. Property titles, zoning records, and legal clearances were all meticulously organized. The listing, the buyer's credentials, and the careful management of the lodge were presented clearly, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Karen's calls, intended to provoke intervention or disrupt the sale, collapsed under the weight of evidence and preparation. As the officers reviewed the situation, Karen's frustration became apparent. She had assumed that her call would trigger immediate action, that she could interfere or perhaps block the transaction. Instead, she found herself observing the orderly process, the proper documentation, and the transparency with which the property's management had been conducted. Her assumed authority was revealed as hollow, her audacity confronted by strategy and lawful preparation. The day unfolded with the buyer touring the property under my supervision. Every detail was carefully managed. The pond, the lodge, the surrounding fields, and the historical structures were all presented with clarity and oversight. Karen, despite her attempts to assert control, could not interfere. Her presence, once a source of intimidation, became irrelevant against the well-organized procedures and the legal protections in place. The farm's sovereignty was reaffirmed, and the transaction proceeded without obstruction. Throughout the day, I documented Karen's intrusion, noting her calls, the responses they elicited, and her reactions to the reality of the situation. Each moment served as a record of her repeated overreach, her misinterpretation of authority, and the futility of her interference when confronted with knowledge, preparation, and lawful action. The farm itself seemed to respond to the order and calm, the reservoir reflecting the sky, the livestock grazing peacefully, and the trees standing as silent witnesses to the sovereignty maintained on the land. By evening, the listing had been successfully processed, and the buyer's interest secured. Karen's intrusion, intended to delay or disrupt, had been neutralized completely. The farm's authority, preparedness, and strategic oversight ensured that no arbitrary action could influence the outcome. Her assumptions of power, once so bold, had met with structured resistance, and the consequences of her audacity were clear. Intrusion is powerless in the face of readiness, lawfulness, and foresight. As night fell, the pond lodge glowed under the soft illumination of lanterns, and the farm settled into quiet. The transaction, lawful and orderly, stood as a testament to the resilience of property rights, strategic planning, and authority grounded in preparation rather than assumption. Karen had tested another boundary, but the outcome reinforced an enduring lesson. Audacity, when confronted with knowledge, foresight, and meticulous organization, is always neutralized. By the time the stars reflected in the calm water of the pond, the land had returned to tranquility. Every structure, every pathway, every element of the property had been accounted for, secured, and documented. The HOA's attempt to intervene had failed entirely, leaving only a record of intrusion and a clear reminder that sovereignty, preparation, and lawful authority are unassailable when diligently exercised. The pond lodge, the fields, and the reservoir remained untouchable, a sanctuary of order, strategy, and enduring control over one's own land.